You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello and welcome back to the official Deaf Crocodile Podcast for July 2025 already. Dear Lord. My name is Ryan Verrill, here with the men behind the label, Craig Rogers and Dennis Bartok. Thank you, boys, for coming back.
Hello.
Hello. Good to be back, Ryan.
I am excited. We got a lot to talk about today, so I will not filibuster for too long, but for everybody to stay here after we talk about this month's new announcement, we solicited for questions in our Discord, which, by the way, if you want to join that Discord, you got to be a member, signing up through the membership on the Deaf Crocodile website, deafcrocodile.com, or the next time we open up subscriptions, you can get one of those, and then you'll get an invite straight to the Discord as well. We asked there first and gave them a couple extra days, but then on social media, we solicited some questions, and we've got some doozies. We got some stuff that I've never seen asked, and I'm very curious to hear some of these answers. So we're going to get into it.
I was looking through the list, and I was just like, I'm actually interested in answering that one.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd like to talk to the guys behind the label and find out what they were thinking.
I'll get you a contact. I promise. I'm close to them.
I can tell you they weren't thinking at all. Answer that one for you.
I did have to filter out all the questions about can you sign this very specific title that I watched when I was 12 years old that nobody else has ever heard of. But those aren't necessarily always interesting questions, but we can always do some research. Send us an email.
Just hit the contact us on the website and send us your wish list.
Yeah. And that does work. Some of the titles coming up in the next year have been solicited through email through people.
A
number of them.
A lot of our releases are because fans of the label, like those of you listening right now, say, hey, there is this really wonderful movie that is, for some reason, slipped through the cracks. Have you ever seen it? And we start tracking it down. And then
these wacky films are someone's favorite.
Let's do it. A couple of our upcoming releases. Norbert Pfaffenbichler's amazing subterranean post-apocalyptic horror mutant monster sci-fi silent cinema 2551 trilogy was a suggestion along with our upcoming box set of 3 films by Finnish director Tuvo Tullio with Sensuela, Across of Love, and Restless Blood. Amazing surreal melodramas from the 1940s through the early 1970s were both suggestions to us. And we fell in love with them, and they're coming out soon.
I am excited to be able to hold both of those in my hand, but we got to wait a few months for that. The one that we will be able to hold in our hands soon, announcing this week. You can pre-order this everywhere starting today. Let's talk about Treasures of Soviet Animation Volume 2. We've been seeing reviews for some of the films in the first box pouring in on Letterboxd. A lot of people in the Discord discussing these films and the beautiful restorations that have happened. So, Dennis, tell us what we can find in this box set, because this includes some of the bigger ones that people have been genuinely after for quite some time.
Well, one of the crown jewels of the Soyuz Mult film library and of the history of Soviet animation is The Snow Queen by director animator Lev Atamanov from 1957. It's based on a Hans Christian Andersen story. And it is just this utterly gorgeous and haunting fairy tale about this incredible, resourceful young girl named Gerda, whose best friend Kay is kidnapped by this stunning, imperious, mythical figure, the Snow Queen. And Gerda has to embark on this epic journey to try and save her friend. And the film is, justly loved and acclaimed in its own right as a masterpiece, but also because it was one of the seminal films that inspired the great Hayao Miyazaki to actually continue as an animator. A few years ago, his company re-released the film in Japan, and he called it My Destiny and My Favorite Film. And the story that he's recounted is that in the early 1960s, I think he was working at Toei Animation as a young animator, and he was really dejected. He was kind of on the verge of giving up animation because he felt it was what he was doing was really unimaginative and sort of assembly line. And the labor union at the studio hosted a screening of The Snow Queen, and it completely enraptured him and made him decide to rededicate his life to animation. And one of the things that we have on the release is a really wonderful video essay by animation expert John Adkins, who does the Animation Obsessive newsletter that talks specifically about the influence of The Snow Queen on Miyazaki's work, because when you watch it, you will see so many parallels to imagery and characters, especially in Princess Mononoke, in Spirited Away, in Castle in the Sky, and like a number of Miyazaki's great masterpieces. You can almost draw a direct line and go, oh, wow, I see him paying homage to The Snow Queen.
It's a great visual essay.
We have another.
I'm looking forward to watching it again.
We have another amazing one by film historian Evan Chester that looks at Adamanov's work in general. That is a wonderful companion to the three films. We actually have three films in the set. The Snow Queen is the most famous. It was widely distributed outside of the Soviet Union at the time. So it was one of the best known Soviet animated movies made during that period. But we're also including a slightly earlier film that he did, kind of a short feature called The Scarlet Flower, which is almost equally as gorgeous and kind of radiant and jewel-like. And it reminds me a lot of sort of a combination of Jean Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast with some of Alexander Petrushko's wonderful fantasy films like The Stone Flower and Sadko. And then a third film, we kind of sort of went overboard. But Adamanov's work is so amazing, and he's really is one of those towering giants of Soviet animation in this period. We kind of couldn't stop ourselves. Is another feature about an hour long that he did in 1961 called The Key. And it's done in a completely different style than the other two films. The Scarlet Flower and The Snow Queen are very similar in terms of sort of the lyrical animation, which kind of parallels the sort of classic, I guess, Disney style.
It's kind of got a Disney's 40s, 50s kind of look to it.
Yeah, like Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, and that it has some parallels. The Key is completely different, and it's done in that really quirky, angular, sort of UPA, Mr. Magoo, Gerald McBoing Boing style. And it's fantastic. It's really great. So Craig has done beautiful new restorations of all three. I don't think any of them have been released on Blu-ray before. Is that correct, Craig?
Not sure. Don't think so.
I can find out while Craig talks about the restorations on these. How difficult were they?
Well, I saw that one of the questions that was sent in was, what's the most difficult restoration you've worked on? It might be these three.
Tell us why, Craig.
the source elements are just pretty rough shape. They're coming together. They're looking good, but it has been a tremendous effort. We've brought in my friend and former coworker back at our Cinelicious days, Michael, who joined us in the podcast earlier. I reached out to him and begged for some help because I was getting so far behind, and I was like, I could use a hand here, and he's like, sure, send me some files. So we're still working on them. So it's getting, which I guess brings us to something else we should point out is that pre-sale for this is starting now, but we're starting it. We're pushing the release date though, so it's coming out at the end of September, along with our normal September release. So there won't be a August release. This was planned to be August, but the restoration's taken so long. So yeah, it's been a doozy.
And these are new. Well, they're scans. So the raw scans were done from film materials held at Gosfilmafond in Russia for Soyuz Multfilm, who we've been collaborating with on these treasures of Soviet animation. So they're the biggest and longest running animation studio in Russia. So we were able to get the raw scans sent to Craig, and he's essentially doing brand new restorations of all of these films. So they will look stunning if anyone has seen the first volume.
Some of these films in this series, they had newer 4K scans, but they had scanned a later generation element on a scanner that's not great. So I asked them what other elements they had, and they had older scans from a better scanner from the OCN, but they were 2K, not 4K. But still, they looked a lot better. So for a lot of these in this series, we've gone back to the 2K OCN scans because the 4K scans they had were not as good as their 2K scans. So we went with the best element we could get.
Well, and especially for animation, if you can get back to the camera negative, that's really gold. Right. Because the further you get away in terms of inner positive, inner negative, you really start to see a degradation of some of the brush strokes and the fineness of the animation in these films, which is really remarkable.
One of the questions we got in the Discord, actually, I could bring up right now, which I would love to hear the answer to this one. How did you choose films for these Treasures of Soviet Animation box sets? Were these based on availability of scans, or were you picking and choosing on some other criteria, very specific wish list? How did these come about?
We actually started with the first films that were in the Volume 1, the animated sci-fi movies, Mystery of the Third Planet, and the two films, The Pass and the Return by Vladimir Tarasov. We were introduced to Soyuz Multfilm by our colleague and very good friend Oliver Lotsky, who we've worked with on pretty much all of our Russian film releases, the Alexander Petrushko films, Kinzaza, films of Karin Shakhnazarov, like Zerograd and the Moscow Slums and Assassin of the Tsar. And Alla is a very acclaimed film scholar and programmer. And she introduced us to Soyuz Multfilm, and we started with those three films for the sci-fi animated series, and we thought that was going to be it.
Yeah. Then we were like, hey, what else do you have? And we're like, oh, you cow. The more we dug, the more we were like, there's so much gold in here.
But they were like, what else? We have decades of incredible animation. And so we looked primarily at the features, either full feature length or the short features. They have, oh my God, so many incredible short films. And maybe at some point we'll be able to do some releases of compilations of the Soyuz Malt short films as well. But we wanted to concentrate first and foremost. Actually, the first compilation that's coming up at the end of the year of shorts is the work of Yuri Norstein, Hedgehog in the Fog and the Tale of Tales, which are incredible. So essentially, it was actually really hard to narrow it down. There was so much amazing stuff, but we are actually putting out, by the time the 6 volumes in this series are done, we will have put out a number of the most acclaimed and most wonderful features from Soyuz Malt Film, along with some of their best known shorts like Hedgehog in the Fog. And actually, I don't think we can announce it because we couldn't resist. We've actually just licensed another feature film from Soyuz Malt Film, which I guess technically, Craig, could be Volume 7.
Oh, I forgot that was Soyuz Malt. Yeah,
Soyuz Malt Film. Yeah, I guess technically it should be Volume 7. Oh boy!
Yeah, I guess
it's amazing, incredible stop motion animated feature. Actually the most recent of the.
Although technically it wouldn't be Volume 7 because this is Treasures of Soviet Animation, and that's not Soviet.
And you're right. Thank you for pointing that out. It would be a misnomer. So,
well, I mean, that's one of the questions that we got in the Discord as well, is if these are successful, is there potential for more than 6 volumes of Treasures of Soviet Animation?
Yes. So the answer to that is yes. I mean, there's so much amazing animated work. I mean, from around the world that we're just scratching the surface with.
Yeah, we're working on trying to hammer out a deal for a massive collection of animated shorts. So
from another
so it might not be
country,
Soviet animation, but there's no lack of animation on the way.
Craig, we talked about that one, and I got like secondhand intimidation. The way that you would have to pour through so much material to figure stuff out and curate it. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, and of course the irony isn't lost on us of the political situation that's happening right now with Russia and the rest of the world, and the fact that we've been fortunate enough to release some of these classics and rare gems of Russian and Soviet, both live action and animated filmmaking. A couple of the films that we've done, both Kinzaza and Zerograd, are although they don't deal with it directly, kind of indirectly and metaphorically, both of those films are about the collapse of the Soviet Union and the dysfunction that was happening. And they kind of came out as the Soviet Union was starting to fall apart.
Ilya Muromets is literally protecting Kiev.
Yeah. Of course, when it was made, so it's sort of a paean to the mythical Kievan Rus, which was the pre-Russia, pre-Ukraine kind of geographic political body, and Ilya Muromets was sort of the King Arthur. He may have been inspired by a real life character, but grew to become this mythical character. And in Ilya Muromets, he is actually defending Kyiv from outside invaders, the kind of Mongol tribes that are trying to invade. And at the time the film was made, of course, it was a call for Soviet nationalism. But when you look at the film now, it's hard not to see the metaphor of this proud, staunch defense of Kyiv against outside invaders. It's a very different reading of the movie, of course, than when it was made in the late 1950s, but it's sort of an equally, I think, appropriate reading of that film.
And it's pretty, I mean, wars are fought over imaginary lines on maps, which in itself is so bizarre. But we've dialed up the weird in this case, where it's like we're going to fight over imaginary lines that used to be on maps hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It's like, yeah, that makes sense.
I know, and actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think Putin has mentioned a number of times the justification for the invasion of the Ukraine being that he wants to return to the Kievan Rus, which is a body that hasn't existed for, is it 700 or 800 years?
Yeah, hundreds and hundreds. It basically wants to go back to Delia Mermit's days. It's like,
yeah, we're talking about, like, you know, the time of the Norman invasion of England. It's sort of like saying, yeah, like we want to go back to when it was just, you know, the Saxon England or something that so far predates our modern nation states and political boundaries that it's like, you want to do what? You want to go back to the Kievan Rus? You may as well say, like, I want to go back to Camelot. So it is really interesting, actually, to look at these films sort of through the lens of what is happening now in the world, even though, you know, they were made in a different time and context, which is one of the reasons, like, we want people to hopefully see and appreciate the incredible artistry of these animators and filmmakers. Adamonov in particular was of Armenian/Soviet heritage. And I think that very much sort of informs his work as an artist. And to be able to appreciate and celebrate the work of artists and filmmakers who were working often under great restrictions politically and culturally, but were still managing to create incredibly beautiful, profoundly human and humane works of art. And I think in the case of Adamonov, particularly in The Scarlet Flower and I think most famously in The Snow Queen, that's what you're seeing.
and most importantly, hopefully people will discover the Snow Queen and forget about Frozen.
There's a lot of the Snow Queen in Frozen.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is not a bad thing. I mean, if you're going to quote from one of the all-time greats.
It's a big deal. This is a lot of pedigree. And funny enough, we talked about a lot of stuff that leads into one of the other questions. I wasn't planning on asking so many of these before we got to the next part, but the embargo with Russia, considering you started the deal with Mosfilm before all of that went down, are we allowed to add anything in that agreement, or are we stuck with what you had beforehand?
Well, we've actually tried to, you know, we were in discussions on some films from other studios, and unfortunately the terrible war in the Ukraine and the invasion put those on hold. So it has impacted our ability to license and release
there's a slew
other
of
films.
I mean, films that we've been
oh my god,
to put out, but can't.
a number of Gorky Studios and Len Film, and there are other really. And in fact, we have been working for a while now to try and license, restore, and release some of the classics and treasures of Ukrainian cinema, because there is such a wealth of beautiful Ukrainian films, and the invasion and all of the ripples through the society there have made it incredibly difficult. We're still working on it. We're still hoping that we can license and put out some of these films. It's not for lack of trying. It's that the realities of the war have just made it incredibly difficult. So we did get lucky in that we were able to establish this working relationship with Mosfilm just before the war broke out. And we're hoping that if there is a resolution to the conflict, God willing, at some point soon, that we would be able to license some amazing Ukrainian films, as well as some of the other, gems of Russian and Soviet filmmaking.
Well, then on that note, back to Treasures of Soviet Animation Volume 2. What else can we expect for supplemental features?
Well, in addition to the 2 visual essays that we mentioned, we have wonderful audio commentary by film historian Rolf Giesen, who has contributed to several of our releases recently, including the DIFA sci-fi set, has written a number of books, very well respected, a German film historian, in fact.
With an amazing accent.
He's great.
Amazing accent. We actually, one of our big releases upcoming in October is, as we said, Norbert Pfaffenbichler's The 2551 trilogy. And Norbert, as will become apparent to people when they see his features as well as the short films, is a great fan, admirer, devourer of film history, and a lot of his own films comment and use elements from previous movies. And when we mentioned that we were going to have Rolf Giesen write an essay, Norbert was like, oh my God, I grew up reading Rolf's books. You're kidding me. He's actually going to. So he wound up, he's like, can I talk with him? Can I do an interview with Rolf? So Rolf's essay is actually an interview with Norbert.
Oh.
And Norbert was just so excited. He was like a kid in a candy shop. So he did the commentary. And then we have a booklet with essays by Walter Chaw, who contributes to all of our releases, and also essays by Rolf, because he had so much to share. He also did essays on the films, which are very exhaustive, with a ton of incredible information. And the slipcase artwork, Craig, maybe you could talk about that.
That's Haley Buck again. She's going to be doing the slipcase artwork for the whole series, and she was really happy with how it seems like each one she likes more than the previous, and I can't disagree. Like they look amazing. She just this week sent us the artwork for Volume 3, which looks incredible. So yeah, she'll be handling the art for all of the limited editions, and we're thrilled with it.
There is a lot of animation supporters in the Discord, and everybody seems to be excited about all these coming up. Is there one of these Soviet pieces that you've announced that you want to be able to talk about that you're most looking forward people to discovering?
They're all new to me, so I'm not really familiar with them. But looking through the materials we've been given, I'm most excited about the Mowgli.
Oh yeah, the adventures.
Just looking through the scans on that, it's like Disney's The Jungle Book, but with the training wheels taken off. Where like everything about it is just slightly more mature. The artwork, the storyline, the how it's played out. Yeah, I'm super excited to see that one when we're done with the restoration and just sitting and watch it. It looks amazing.
Yeah, so animator, filmmaker named Roman Davidov, between 1967 and 1971, did a series of adaptations of The Jungle Book, which was also adapted into a feature around the same time by Disney, as Craig said. But Davidov's take on it is very different, and they wound up collecting all the short films that he had done into a feature called The Adventures of Mowgli. And that's one of the upcoming releases, and I think it's going to blow people's minds. The animation in that is so ravishing. The other one, I mean, I have to say, all of these volumes are really astonishing. I'm really looking forward to people experiencing the work of Valentina and Zenaida Brumberg. The Brumberg sisters were pioneering female animators in the Soviet Union whose career went back to the 1930s. And we're going to be putting out a compilation of three of their most wonderful kind of short features, long shorts. The earliest one is The Tale of Tsar Sultan. Ironic, because we've already released another live-action adaptation of that famous Pushkin work, kind of a narrative in verse by Alexander Petrushko, but this is an animated version from 1943. There's a wonderful film called The Night Before Christmas from 1951. It is not what you expect from a Christmas film. It is really amazing. And then the latest one in their career we're putting out, because their career stretched over decades, is called It Was I Who Drew the Little Man, which is incredibly experimental and wonderful short feature. So I'm very excited for people to see.
Yeah. So those are ones we're excited about that are lesser known, but obviously the Norstein set that's coming out is the one that's
at the end of the year,
probably the best known material.
Yes, it's really interesting how many people were like, "Are you going to put out The Hedgehog and the Fog?" And The Hedgehog and the Fog is a really it is one of the acknowledged masterpieces of world animation. It's a short movie. So fortunately, we were able to work with Soyuz Malt Film and license pretty much all of the short films that he did either on his own or co-directed with other acclaimed animators that are in their library. So it will be very close to a complete collection of Norstein's work, and it will be. I think
the only thing we're missing is he did a commercial for something, and he did a small segment in a anthology piece with lots of other people contributing.
Yeah, but Japanese,
and he did a small little piece for that. Those are the only two things we're missing.
I think those are the only ones we're missing. So
it was funny when as soon as it came out that we were putting it out, people online immediately asked if we were going to put those other two pieces out. We're like, no.
That always cracks me up. Like we jump through so many hoops and we get this material that's incredibly rare and difficult to access, and we're restoring it from scratch. And then somebody is like, "But are you putting
If it doesn't have the commercial, I
He
don't
shot
want
it on a Pixel Vision camera before he was born. He shot it on a Pixel Vision camera. He buried it in the ground for 10,000 years, and then it was exhumed. You're going to put that one on there. It was carved on stone tablets.
It is funny that, like, the fact that there's so many people out there, and there are people that know the tiniest minutia, leads to, frustrations like this on occasion. But it's also how we find a lot of these films that even Dennis hasn't heard of, that we look at, we find them and we're like, oh my God, that's amazing. So you've got to take the good with the bad.
I love that that's the bar for Deaf Crocodile, that it's even Dennis hasn't heard of it.
Exactly. It's a high bar. It is a high bar.
No, this goes back to my days as a programmer when I was working at the American Cinematheque, and people would say, oh my God, you must have seen so many films. I said, no, I like to, it's not about knowing or seeing so many films. It's about knowing other people who have seen so many films in specific areas. So, for example, if we were doing a spaghetti Western series, I would reach out to somebody who was an expert in spaghetti Westerns. Or if we were doing Japanese genre films from the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, my great friend Chris D, would program those with me. So it's very much about being collaborative. And if you suggest a film that we wind up licensing and releasing, not only will we acknowledge you, but we will send you free copies of the movie, and in fact, other films if you want from the Deaf Crocodile library. If you pick one and we wind up putting it out, like, we will be happy to thank you profusely for your suggestion.
That's amazing. Just a reminder on Treasures of Soviet Animation Volume 2. As Craig said, it is up for pre-order today. It will not be shipping at the end of this next month as we usually do, so it will be available for pre-order here in July. Shipping, we have an actual date, and I clicked away from the tab. The actual release date of that is September 30th, so the end of September.
Well, and I should also mention, because people will ask, so the Snow Queen was so well known and acclaimed that it actually did get a release in the United States, dubbed into English, with, I believe, actually a slightly different edit. So that release was done by one of the major studios who no longer have rights to those audio tracks. You could probably find them out there in some version or maybe online. But the problem is when these films are sub-licensed to other countries, if it's dubbed in English, either for the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, it's the distributors in those territories generally who arrange for that. They contract with the actors, and if their license to the film expires, so does any right they have to those audio tracks. So we get a lot of requests, and people will wring their hands in frustration. Why aren't you including the vintage English dubbed track for various films? Because it is nearly impossible to clear the rights for those, because the company they were done for in many cases doesn't exist. In the case of Snow Queen, they do exist still, but they have no legal right to the film. They lost their right to distribute the Snow Queen many years ago, and the contracts that were done were only for a theatrical release of the film. This was like before there was any concept of home video in any form or digital streaming. So it is literally next to impossible to legally acquire the right to include those tracks. The other thing is that in many instances, the versions of those films that were released in the US were cut down. There were different edits. So the English dubbing doesn't match the in most cases, we're putting out kind of longer, complete versions of the films with the original language. The other thing is that we actually like watching it with the original language tracks with subtitles. We think that is much closer to the filmmaker's intention. Performances, the original actors who voice those characters, we think should really be enjoyed and appreciated for the wonderful work they did. It is marvelous. In The Snow Queen, Atamanov got some really great performers for the original Russian language version. So I know there's a nostalgic appeal, and if we could, we would. If those,
we always ask.
Yeah,
it's just
we ask, we look into it, but it's almost impossible to legally get the vintage English dubbing, and we don't, for kind of creative and moral reasons, sometimes actually for contractual reasons, we're not allowed to do new English dub tracks. But for the most part, we don't think that hiring actors to dub the films into English now, that many years later, without the participation of the original filmmaker or animator.
Plus, it would cost a fortune.
I was literally about to say it's expensive as shit.
It's really expensive, and it never sounds good. If you've heard any archival older films with new, because of the way dubbing is done now, it sounds so clean. It doesn't work. It just feels really jarring.
With some very talented voice actors, we could gather together an incredible crew of voice actors, but then we would, lose our shirts. we would be in the red so bad. There'd be no
from one title, literally.
Yeah, from one title. We're like, okay, this is.
I know, but that's the other thing, and I think it bugs me more than Greg every time we announce another really rare animated film. We've done like a new 4K scan from the camera negative, and it's never come out on Blu-ray, 4K UHD. And then the first question is, "Are you putting the English track, the dub track, on it?" I was like, pulling out chunks of my hair, because that's kind of the one element. People asked us that repeatedly for Felidae, the wonderful Michael Schack film we put out last December.
I think
asked.
There was a new comment on YouTube just yesterday. Someone was like, "Why didn't you put out the English dub?"
We asked, and the rights holder in Germany, they're like, "We have no rights to the English."
They didn't have the material either.
Actually, they were like, "We don't have the material, we don't have the contracts, we don't have the rights, we can't give you the rights to include it." So we tried, but we hit a dead end. So
I also want to point out, and I will not mention any names specifically, but in home video specifically, over the last 25 years, there are many instances where you'll find the dubs on these releases. They never actually got the rights for those. They just sort of took the chance that nobody would come after them. So the fact that people have gotten used to those dubs,
I suspect that's the case with most of the old films that come out that they've included a dub with. Is they were just like, we got the material, we threw it on there. We're just, since the company probably doesn't exist anymore, they're just taking our gamble that no one will come after them because they don't exist anymore. But we don't like doing business that way.
Well, and in the case of the Snow Queen, I think it was Universal, which nobody has ever heard of Universal Pictures. We'd never get in trouble with Universal for using their dub track from the late 50s. So, that was... Yeah, in some cases, it was small distributors that vanished many, many years ago, and the chances of somebody coming after you are probably.
And I know we've said this numerous times, but I've watched Felidae a number of times on the DVD in English, and I've then watched it when we did our restoration with the original language. The voice actors are so much better. Like, the people doing the German track are so much better.
I agree.
Especially the I'm blanking on his name, but Francis's buddy,
Bluebeard.
Bluebeard.
Laubach.
The actor the actor that does him. I'm like, I could just listen to that guy just talk all day.
And they got nobodies. Like Klaus Maria Brandauer does the voice of the villain, the antagonist. I was like, you couldn't get anybody better than Klaus Maria Brandauer. It's like one of the best.
Anyway,
actors of
Dead
that
Horse has been beaten.
I know. So yes, so
no, there will be no English dubs on any of these Soviet animation releases.
I'll be doing some research into turning the other half of Craig's garage into a dubbing booth so that we can save some money, though.
Or we could just get Ryan and Will to double the voices.
Oh gosh! Oh, that would be.
You know what? That could be a special feature. Instead of a commentary track, it's just the two of you doing all the voices in English,
doing silly accents.
Yeah,
I would have a lot of fun with that.
We might have to do that. For all the people that've been bitching there's no English track, this release has an English dub.
It's Ryan.
And Will.
Someone's favorite productions.
I was literally
providing the English, and then they'll be like, "Oh my God, never put an English dub track on these films again."
I was about to say every dub is someone's favorite, right? That is Treasures of Soviet.
We can put a copyright on the dub that says no one's favorites.
Just immediately lie about our principles. I love it. That is Treasures of Soviet Animation Volume 2. You can pre-order that starting today. Shipping near the end of September. Can't wait for everybody to see this. It's going to be a great release. Now, on to the extensive list of questions. We're going to try to fly through as many of these as we possibly can. Speed rounds. Starting with our Discord.
Our first recording. You know we don't do that.
I said speed round, and Dennis checked out. Dennis, you all right?
No, I mean, my wife, friends, family, they know that they ask a question and immediately it's going to be 8,000 different tangents. And then 20 minutes later, I'll be like, oh, wait, and getting back to
what did you
very simple question that you asked initially.
And you'd be like, no. It was a yes or no question.
Yeah. I will say, it does remind me, many years ago, we were fortunate to have Léos Carax, the great French director of Les Amants de Pont-Neuf and Bad Blood and Holy Motors, join us at the American Cinematheque. And I had heard that he could be very sort of quiet and difficult to interview. But I met him. He came into town. We were chatting. He was very friendly and no problem at all. Screen his movies, invite him out onto stage. I asked him the first question, and he goes, "No." No in French. I go, okay. So I ask him the next question. He goes, "Oui." All of his answers were yes or no. And I'm literally like drenched in sweat. I was like, "Léos, what are you doing to me, man?" Like, what happened to the friendly, couldn't stop talking version of Léos?
I mean, did you ever get an answer like why he does it?
No, I don't know if he has stage fright or if this is a mysterious nonverbal persona that he's adopted in public when he's asked questions about his movies. But it literally, it's like a half-hour conversation of questions. We, no. I was like, wow.
That's really funny.
It was very funny.
All right. Going with the first one, I actually really, really loved this question. Have you ever heard from anybody that was inspired to do either their own label or something else? Like, has anybody told you that Deaf Crocodile inspired them for something, programming at a theater or anything because of what you've done? With Deaf Crocodile. We. All right. Next question.
We actually have, yes, we've actually gotten hit up a number of times recently by people, not just in the US, but worldwide, saying, "Hey, I want to start my own boutique label like Deaf Crocodile. How do I do it?" And my first response is always,
Don't.
you need to get a Craig Rogers.
Yeah.
Because identifying rare and wonderful films, I don't want to say it's easy, but like you can do that if you were a diehard film buff. But being able to handle the materials, both in terms of post-production, prepping them for release, and especially the restoration, the wizardry and magic that Craig does in terms of restoring these films is a really rare skill. And if you don't have someone who knows how to handle the materials, it's going to be very difficult to kind of do what we do.
It's true. So very
it's
true.
Not just you can find places that can give you a master that's already restored, but you're definitely going to need somebody with some sort of a post background to know what to do with the master once they give it to you.
Yeah.
You also need a great graphic designer who's going to be able to. You need artists. You need all the contributors.
Well, I don't know. I watched Ryan's show every Thursday night, and most of those releases, I don't think they had a graphic designer.
Throwing shade. I love it.
There's some beautiful stuff that comes out, but a lot of those is like, woof. Like you gave an intern a free copy of Photoshop and said, "Go for it."
That's cracking me up.
So yeah, there's a lot behind starting a label. Seeing behind the scenes through some of these things, it's not just a simple checklist and call it a day. And on top of that, the other thing that nobody has said yet, which is hilarious, is you need a lot of money to do a lot of this to get started, to be able to do your first project. We're seeing friends trying to do that same thing over in the UK right now with the Cloud Door, starting up the South Asian imprint, hopefully with a Kickstarter that is barely getting much traction. I'm kind of worried that it's not going to be able to pick up before the end of the month. Actually, I'm really hoping that they get their goal, but it's a lot to get one of these running.
We're always happy to help share information and help support other people who are out there trying to rescue, preserve, and share these movies that they're passionate about, the work of filmmakers around the world. I think that's the most important thing. It's not really about competition. It's about collaboration and cooperation, because we couldn't do what we do without a tremendous amount of collaboration worldwide. Absolutely true.
There's plenty of material out there. Like every once in a while we'll see a title that comes out and I'm just like, oh, that was on our wish list.
Which I think was one of the questions, right?
Oh yeah, there's been a number. But you just like, all right, we'll
got away.
Well, we've and we've done the same to others, because we've had labels reach out to us and say, "Damn, I was trying to get that film." We're like, "Sorry."
Jesus. Or we'll announce a title and somebody will be like, "Oh crap, there it goes." The one that we may have mentioned before that we spent years pursuing and did not get in the end is Mamoru Oshii's Angel's Egg.
Yeah, that one hurt a little bit, but
G Kids, I think, licensed for North America. I'm really happy that it's going to. I mean, G Kids does wonderful work.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll look incredible.
It'll look great. That one was painful, and I have to tip our cap to our good friend Fran Simeone with Radiance, a label that we admire. Watch a lot of Radiance titles. Just announced Malpratui, the Harry Kumel film. That was a movie we were also pursuing and got away, and then just heard that Radiance, and I'm like, well, one, there's so much stuff. There's so many fish in the sea. And two, Fran does amazing releases. So I'm really happy that it's landed with somebody.
Yeah, it only really hurts if you've missed out on something and then what's going to be put out won't be great. It's like we could have done such a much better job. But luckily that doesn't usually happen. It's usually,
And it's usually
like Radiance is like, oh, we're like, well, that'll be beautiful,
That'd be beautiful. There's actually a title that really wonderful surreal animated feature that a number of people keep asking for, Allegro non troppo. And we had pursued it, tracked down the rights holder, and they told us a couple of years ago it's been licensed and have not seen it come out. So you hope it's going to come out. Somebody's going to do it.
That happens quite often, which is like, yeah, it's not available, but it's like, well, it's not out. Nobody's announced it. Like,
oh yeah, there's an amazing.
Well, it seems like there's a small number of films out there that people just license and then do nothing with the license, which I wish we had that kind of money to just throw out the window.
I won't go into details, but there is a really wonderful Eastern European fantasy film that I dearly love. It's really silly, but really wonderful. And we have pursued it and pursued it and pursued it. There's a company that has an option to release it, but has not put it out, but will not release it so that we can put it out. And we're like, oh. So, in a sense, we've actually finally sort of moved on. We're like, yeah, I don't think this one's going to happen, because we asked about it for like years now. And the rights holder is like, yeah, they won't say yes and they won't say no. So
there's not a lot of boutique labels with that kind of power.
We do what we can.
On that note, I will softly say before I read this next question, I'm not poking fun at the person asking the question. Just from what we've talked about behind the scenes, I'm dying to see how you guys responded to this question. I'm going to read the first half of the question first. This is so funny to me. You're very lucky where any title that you release, regardless of how well known it was before, to sell very well.
Yeah,
that's the first half.
That one did make me chuckle a bit. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their definition of very well is.
Well, let's read the second half before you respond, because it comes into play here. The second half is, however, is there a title that you think deserves more people's attention, or one that you're surprised hasn't sold as many copies as you expected?
We do have a couple of those.
Yes. There are a couple films we've put out that, well, they've been solid performers. Didn't burn up the charts. Benny's Bathtub, wonderful Danish animated kids film that is like literally a national treasure in Denmark. It's been placed in there. It's like the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress here. It's their like cultural canon. And it's sort of like a Yellow Submarine undersea musical, but with topless mermaids. But it's made for kids. So we actually had to put a warning on there, like, hey, parents, you're going to see topless animated mermaids in this movie. And we loved the movie and put a bunch of amazing
The music
extras.
is fantastic.
Oh, God, the music is amazing.
But yeah, that was a slow seller.
The Assassin of the Tsar. Ironically, of the Karin Shakhnazarov films we've put out, Zerograd, been a big seller in the Moscow slums, has also done very well. Assassin of the Tsar,
the one in English with a big star,
Malcolm McDowell.
It's the least selling of the three.
Kind of slipped under the radar just a bit. It's done well, but we thought, oh my God!
It's like, what?
Ironically, that's the one in which we had the English dub.
The English dub, yes.
They shot two versions. They shot two versions simultaneously. They're slightly different edits. One in which McDowell speaks all the dialogue himself, and everyone else, all the Russian cast members, speak it phonetically. And I think,
they spoke it phonetically, and then it was dubbed.
Post-dubbed,
which is really interesting, because I knew when I was working on it.
Yeah.
I was like, is this out of sync? I'm like, it seems slightly out of sync, but then I would notice, I'm like, well, no, they're like, I thought, well, maybe it's dubbed.
Yeah.
But then I saw that their lips matched the English words, so I'm like, it's not dubbed. And then I found out afterwards and then there's a Russian language. And it was dubbed.
There's a Russian language version, which I think the Russian version is like 2 minutes longer and has different music. This is what's really strange. The rest of the cast all speak Russian, of course, and then McDowell is dubbed into Russian. And we included both versions because Moss Film said to us, "Well, which one do you want?" And we were like,
Can we?
"Oh,
have both?
damn, we gotta put both on." And we love that film. I will let it slip that we are going to, at some point, probably 2026, maybe early 2027, put out 2 more films by Karin Shakhnazarov. I won't say which ones, but we do have more Shakhnazarov coming.
I had
We
no
really,
idea what he was about to say.
I know your eyes darting across the screen. Like, what is he about to accidentally say that we don't want him to?
we do have some more Shakhnazarov coming down the pike. So.
This is me going off script ever so slightly for this question, but just, you guys have always been super transparent. Do you want to set expectations for like what sales are for a small boutique like this? Can you share
Well, I mean, you
what
just look
sales
at-
are like?
Just look at the limited editions and how many we print. You know, like right now we're averaging like around 1,500 we print.
Yeah.
And most of them are still available. So, so yeah.
Although
When someone says, "Oh, like it's so great that they sell really well," I'm like, "Well, it takes us a while to sell 1,500 copies." Like,
Although ironically, they are starting to sell out more and more.
yeah, it is.
Like,
It is. You know,
um,
things are going in the right direction, but like, yeah, I'm just anxious for the days.
the
where,
Cathedral of New Emotions is sold out on the deluxe limited edition. Gwen in the Book of Sand is close to sold out.
There's
Is
a
that
bunch
right?
of them that are under 100 left. We would love the days where, like, you know, in pre-sales we've already sold 3,000, or like,
Yeah.
that would be game changing. We could pay ourselves. We might be able to hire somebody. Like, so yeah, that question did definitely make me chuckle. I'm like, okay, they're selling. I don't know really well, but
No, I mean, we're actually lucky in that we've gotten great support from our growing fan base, and it has allowed us to keep doing what we do to acquire more films. We are up to, I think close to 80 features in our library now,
Jeez.
plus 40 plus shorts. So we're like 120 films or so, between mostly features and shorts in the Deaf Crocodile catalog, a number of which have yet to come out.
Plus some stuff that's streaming only too, right? That's
There's some. Those are included in that. Yeah, there's
Okay,
some that we
okay.
haven't released on physical media that are just digital and or theatrical. But most of what we acquire is for physical media as well as digital and theatrical wherever we can. We believe very strongly. There are 2 films that we're negotiating for. To answer one of the other questions, as far as like countries and regions, we are actively trying to license some wonderful African films. I am a great admirer and fan of African cinema which is such a broad term because there's so many different wonderful sort of filmmaking countries and industries within Africa. But we are working on that, and we are really trying to expand our reach into Latin America, to Central America and South America, to try and get some really great films, both older and newer. So that was another question that yes, we are very conscious of the fact, and once you get contacts in a particular area, like if you're working with, like we work with the Narodny Film Archive in Czechia, and it turns out they've got incredible library of rare and wonderful films. So we wound up putting out Prague Nights and Mysterious Castle and Carpathians and Golden Fern and Adele Has Not Had Supper Yet, and we just licensed 4 more amazing Czech movies that will come out in 2026 from them. So you do tend to
I think that
to
was
work
one of
with
the questions. Somewhere in there, one of the questions had something to do with that, because I was thinking, well, that's what happens is, you go after one film, you find out where it is, you make a relationship with that archive, and then you go, oh, what else do you have? And so then that's how you end up, where we've got like a bunch of Hungarian films came out or a bunch of Czech films came out. It's because, or like we were just saying with the Soviet animation, we started with just asking about those first 3 films, and then we're like, hey, what else do you have? So that's how it always comes out with like, a big chunk of films from one place, is because once you've got a contact somewhere, you try and mine that for everything you can.
Well, and then there'll be like a gateway drug. So Finland. We worked with Kavi, which is the National Audiovisual Institute of Finland, licensed their beautiful restoration of Sampo, one of the Alexander Petrushko fantasy films that was a Finnish-Soviet co-production. And we also, separately working with the Risto Jarva Association, put out Time of Roses. And that got us interested. Okay, what else is, in terms of the rich history of Finnish cinema? And somebody said, hey, have you ever seen the incredibly strange and surreal melodramas of Tuvo Tullio? And now we are putting out a 3-film box set in November with Sensuela, Cross of Love, and Restless Blood, which...
And because we had that...
If there are any films we're putting out this year that are going to blow people's minds, it's either the 2551 trilogy or Tuvo Tullio's movies, and especially Sensuela. Those are mind-melting films.
It's going to be a hell of a fourth quarter for 2025 for Deaf Crocodile.
Well, this is the first time that we're doing really, as many ambitious kind of multi-film sets. Yeah. October, a 2-film set of German silent horror movies and a 4-disc set for the 2551 trilogy, one for each of the films, and then a 4th disc of shorts, behind the scenes footage.
Yeah, we've gotten
interviews. Oh my God, there's so much.
We've gotten so much stuff for 2551 that we'd planned. We're like, all right, we'll have a 4th disc just with extras, and we've reached a point where I don't know if it'll all fit on that 4th disc. So some of the extras might have to get spread across the other discs as well. Like, there's a lot.
And the same thing for Tuvo Tullio. Like, we licensed the 3 films, and they've done, Kavi and Mikko Kudi, who is our wonderful contact there, is like, okay, we're going to do, new versions, restorations of these films for you, because they'd never come out on Blu-ray before. And then they said, hey, we got all these bonus features. They have fragments from 2 of his early films that are mostly lost, but chunks exist. They've got a short film about the preservation of his work. And so they were like, here's all this incredible material. And it's really hard for us to say no.
Yeah, of course.
So, for the Czech, so I won't say more other than that we have licensed 2 incredible Czech silent genre films from the 1920s to put out by the same filmmaker, and the Narodny Film Archive is like, and we have a bunch of his surviving short films. And we're like, how many? And they're like, 5 or 6. Like, oh my God. Okay. All right. So we're going to include those and have new music scores written for them. So,
so much
music scores.
Yeah,
2551 will be our first release that includes the music score, and it's such a huge part of the film because it's a dialogue-free trilogy, and the music is incredible. So pretty excited that we'll have a soundtrack on that one as well.
I can't wait. I think this was the last question I asked, but going on the opposite side of that, is there anything that you have just decided to not even pursue because of potential, not great sales potential? Like something that you were really strongly wishing that you could do, just know that, man, this just wouldn't sell. And this is an interesting question because the interesting part about Deaf Crocodile is most people have never heard of most of the stuff that you're putting out already.
Yeah, but we've got the huge plus of their great movies.
I agree.
I mean, it's not that it's not the film's fault that they've gotten forgotten.
Right.
So it does make it a lot easier that, if we were putting out a bunch of stuff no one's ever heard of, and then it came out and all the reviews came out with like, well, that should have stayed lost.
Right.
So that helps a lot. But as far as stuff we wouldn't
there's
put
very
out,
few films that we've ever, there's a really interesting experimental feature that I actually pursued. It was directed, written by, and stars Richard Beamer, who was in West Side Story and also worked with David Lynch later on. Really
I interviewed him, right?
Yeah, about this film, I believe.
About the interview?
Yeah.
Okay. So a few years ago, I tracked down Richard and I said, hey, I understand that you directed this experimental feature. I'd love to see it. And after, maybe like a year and a half, 2 years, he finally sent me a copy of it. Have you seen it?
I have. It is a weird, I don't know, a borderline psychedelic take on a Big Sur bad trip in a couple scenes. It is so fun.
It is, but I was scratching my head and saying, wow, I don't know if we would actually be able. I mean, it's funny now that we have a really loyal fan base. Maybe we would be able to do well with it. And I thought it was a really interesting movie. Also had some, I thought, possible music clearance issues. I think there was some well-known like Aretha Franklin or Stone songs. And the other thing was Richard was like, and I plan on re-editing it. I was never happy with the cut.
Yeah.
And so I'm recutting it. And so I was like, oh, okay. So are we including the original or the new version? But I did connect him with an archivist who I think was trying to work with him to see if it could be preserved either in the original version or his new version. That's one of the films that I had actually tracked down, and I was like, this is a really fascinating project, but I don't know if there's a big audience for it because it's such a bizarre, it's like early 70s Southern California bad trip. It's not a narrative in any, it's really kind of an experimental feature.
Yeah, that was, I will not make this about me for too long, I swear, but one of the most surreal moments of my life, being able to speak to him for like an hour. I mean, technically he only lives like 4 hour drive for me right now. I mean, if we were ever putting it out, like I would drive to his house to interview him. Richard was incredible to talk to, and when we were off camera, he's just so jovial and like curmudgeonly about certain things. It's so hilarious. But he was literally working on it again as I interviewed him, and that had to have been, almost 2 years ago now at this point.
I remember that interview. It was great.
I have a feeling that the guy that was working with him that I had on the channel with Richard was the guy that you referred him to, which is hilarious.
Was it Ross?
It was Ross.
Yeah, Ross is great. Ross is a wonderful.
Jesse Pyers, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know we know Jesse as well. Jesse's great programmer in Philadelphia. Yes, I believe
the Lightbox Film Center.
Yeah. We love what Jesse does, and Ross has done a wonderful restoration. I think he spearheaded the restoration of Wanda, the Barbara Loden
I believe
film,
so.
if I'm not mistaken, is one of his best known restoration projects, which is an amazing movie. I hope it sees the light of day. That was one of those projects that, as difficult as it was, I was like, wow, I don't know that we could pursue this at the time. Again, we've kind of now built up a pretty enthusiastic fan base, and now people are going to listen to this and they're going to be like, I want to see Richard Beamer's The Interview.
Well, and
there's quite a bit of nudity.
Yeah,
very free form, both male and female.
So much that he did around that time that you could fill. I mean, you could probably make it a 2-disc set. Like he's got protest films that he recorded back then that were like pure documentaries that he went to go and talk about the election problems that were happening in the South. And
I should reach out. Maybe I should reach out to now. No, I'm like, damn, maybe we should revisit the interview. Damn. Because it took me years to track him down and years to convince him to send it to me. And then, but also part of it beside the music rights was like, yeah, but I don't want to put out that version. And I was like, but what version do you want to put out? He's like, well, the one I haven't finished editing yet. And I was like, oh,
maybe
okay.
it's done now.
now we got to try to put out both versions.
And also the technology exists to pull music off of a soundtrack.
Yeah, that we could.
Cleanly now. That didn't used that used to be a difficult thing.
I love that this is happening in the middle of a podcast episode, by the way.
We're like, we do it. That is so funny that you actually talked with Richard about the interview. And
I literally have Richard's phone number. I can give it to you after we're done.
Yeah,
somewhere I think I still have Richard's email. Let me reach out to Jesse and Ross and see if they have gotten anywhere with the preservation. Because I was like, it should definitely be preserved.
Yeah.
Which is how I wound up connecting Richard with Ross. He was like, oh, yeah, this is a really interesting project. He's like, I don't know where I'm going to find the money for this, but it's definitely worth preserving. So
agreed.
This was years ago. So
let's go to the next question then. What films or types of films would Deaf Crocodile avoid?
Well, off the top of my head, I can think of one that we were somewhat interested in and we avoided because of some animal cruelty.
Ooh.
Yeah. We have passed on at least one film, really fascinating movie that shows, I think, what appears to be live animals actually being hurt and or killed. It's made in the late 60s. Fascinating film. You could always say it was in the context of the time, or you could try and edit that out or blur it out, but that's hard for us as animal lovers, as Craig has Cat Dad on his podcast subtitle. That was tough for us. All of the films that we put out, we both agree are worth putting out. So, if I'm into a film and Craig's like, yeah, it's just not moving me, then we move on, or vice versa. Like, we want to be in agreement because you do spend so much time with these movies that you really want to love them and want to treat them with all of the care and respect.
Don't want to come on the podcast on release day and be like, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
There are some films we've passed on that we thought, this will sell well, but it's just, we're not that excited about it as a movie, or it's just doesn't feel like it fits with our vibe.
And trying to we ourselves have tried to define like what that vibe is, or
right.
What is a Deaf Crocodile film, and it's kind of impossible to pin down.
Yeah.
So I think one of the questions was like, what do we have coming out that people might be like, that's doesn't
surprising.
neatly fit into the Deaf Crocodile film vibe? And I mean, Serious might be the furthest kind of stepping out, but it's not a huge step out.
Nah.
But at the same time, I'm like, what is a Deaf Crocodile film? It's like we've got 1940s films, and
we haven't. I mean, what's kind of cool is, as Craig was saying, that we're actually starting to finally go back further and further into film history. So the two amazing German silent horror movies we're putting out in October with the Film Museum in Munich, working with Stefan Dressler there, Al Raune and the Student of Prague will be our earliest releases chronologically.
It's 28, I think.
Yeah, just before that, we're putting out the 1942 Hungarian film Sirius, and we just signed another incredible mid-1940s black and white Czech film, which, although it's very different than Sirius, was made within a few years and is also a really amazing sort of genre hybrid. So we're and the Tuvo Tullio set has clips from a couple of his films from the late 30s in fragments, and then two of the features, Cross of Love and Restless Blood, are both from 1946. So it's great that we're able to sort of push the clock back in terms of eras that we can reach into. And we want to continue to do more silent cinema because there's so much amazing stuff. And we're huge fans of Kino Lorber and Flicker Alley. We have good friends there, and they put out amazing releases. We buy them, we watch them, we love them. So when we do silent films, we're kind of looking at things that have a bit of a Deaf Crocodile vibe, sort of that intersection of art house and genre filmmaking.
I love that you used the phrase "turn the clock back" when Craig had started talking about Sirius. It was just perfect.
Probably subliminal.
I'm gonna ask Craig. Craig, what do you think of the Dave McKean artwork for our German silent horror movies?
Craig is blushing before he answers this, by the way.
It's Dave McKean, man. It's
wow.
They're incredible.
Yeah,
it's insane. I mean, they're both astonishing, but the artwork he just delivered for Al Raune is one of the most beautiful covers we've ever done. And I thought his Pied Piper was incredible, but Al Raune is jaw-dropping.
And honestly, Student of Prague, it's not as in your face like wow, but the more you look at it, you're just like, oh, that's really fucking cool too.
No, if you had just said Student of Prague, we would have been like, oh, incredible. And I will say that the original artwork for Al Raune, there's a beautiful original poster, which we're including in the standard edition wrap, an image, a very erotic, kind of semi-nude image of the lead actress, Brigitte Helm, which is one of, I think, the greatest iconic images from German silent cinema. And I was like, how are we going to come close to that artwork? And I have to say, what McKean just delivered for Al Raune, it's good in its way. It's amazing.
And
you've seen it, Ryan.
I did ask Dave, because he's a huge silent film fan. He's actually done a series of paintings and drawings based on silent cinema. And I think he's even put out a book called Nitrate, which is all paintings based on silent cinema. And so I was like, well, we're planning on doing more. Would you be interested in just kind of being the go-to cover artist for our silent releases? And he's like, oh yeah, absolutely. So there should be more Dave McKean in the future, which just makes me giddy.
I can't wait to see what he does with the Czech silent genre films. I think he will go bonkers with those. Yeah, they're great.
I mean, he'd actually already done a painting. Was it Al Raune or Student of Prague? I think Student of Prague. And then he did some ink drawings previously for those two films already. So he was already aware of the films. And he's allowing us to reprint those. So those earlier works that he did will be in the booklet in that release. So, yeah, wow. We're pretty excited.
Yeah. No, we're super excited for October. Silent October, because both of our multi-film sets are silent. The earliest films we've put out, Al Raune and Student of Prague, and some of the most recent ones, Norbert Pfaffenbichler's 2551 trilogy, also shot silent without dialogue, although, of course, there's tons of wonderful music for 2551.
Lots of sounds.
Mm.
Oh, my God, yes.
Not silent. They're just
wow.
They're definitely not silent.
Oh, no. We literally would describe it as like silent cinema for fans of Metallica, Bauhaus, The Damned, The Cure,
Industrial, electronic,
Rage Against the Machine. I mean, there's some amazing kind of industrial death metal sounds. There's also some incredible classical music and kind of eerie David Lynch, Mulholland Drive, like lounge.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, that's incredible.
Anyway, next question. Speed round.
Well, this one, a little selfish. Somebody asked on Facebook, huge fan of both yours and Ryan's work. How did the relationship between Deaf Crocodile and Someone's Favorite Productions come about? And I genuinely want to hear what you guys say about this.
I don't
How
remember.
the hell did we meet you, Ryan?
I honestly don't
Do you remember?
I
believe,
can't remember who reached out to who.
I believe I reached out to the Twitter account for an interview way back when. You guys, I don't even know if you had released the first title through OCN yet.
Wow.
Or were about to, or it had just been announced or something like that. And I did that first interview, and even then, we didn't get close until, probably at least a year after that.
Wow.
Because I know I've been watching your channel probably since then.
Yeah.
So if you reached out to us, then I would have been go on YouTube, who's this guy? And I was like, oh. And I do remember distinctly watching a bunch of your videos and thinking, he doesn't have the hugest following, but
I still don't, by the way.
But what you were creating really appealed to me. There were in a internet full of negativity. Your little corner is so much positivity that I was I want to, hitch my wagon to that positive train.
I will say, Ryan, that you and Will are kind of like our the ace up our sleeves, or our designated hitters. When we need somebody to bring it home, everything you've done for us in terms of visual essays, any of the materials, the podcast, everything has just been fantastic. So
you, Dennis, you don't even know how often I'm just constantly messaging him on Discord with questions and what's your opinion on this, or what do you think about that?
Oh, no, I see it. I actually go. I check Discord.
Those are the public ones. I direct message him constantly.
Yeah.
The Discord discussions, I have to say, if anyone is considering becoming a member, the Discord discussions are great. And they get into topics that I would have never thought, like subreddit discussions about pets and food and non-DC jibba jabba and all sorts of stuff, along with seeing artwork, during production, early versions of artwork or Craig's restorations, things that in many cases actually don't show up on the finished discs. You can see on the Discord groups. So I'll bet if you ask the people who are contributing regularly, they're like, oh yeah, no, this is really fascinating stuff. So
I am genuinely going to lightning round some questions. We're not going to discuss these at all, and then we're going to call it a day. You guys have been incredible today. Some of these are going to be very difficult, and I apologize in advance. Craig, favorite movie of all time?
Right. That's impossible.
I will share mine first while Dennis and you think of yours. If I am forced to pick an answer at this moment in time, I would probably say The Muppets Christmas Carol.
Wow.
I literally have animal tattooed on my arm. It's been in my Letterboxd top 4 since I made an account. I worship Jim Henson stuff. Dennis, do you have a favorite film of all time that you give as your go-to answer even?
No, I don't have a single favorite film. I've got, as my wife says, 5,000 favorite films.
Same.
It's the same thing with favorite albums. I'm like, oh my God, this is one of my favorite albums. And she's like, is that number 4,876?
Today, sure.
Today, because you mentioned 800 in the past week.
For music, I could easily give you an artist, But like a movie, that's like saying, of that artist, what's your favorite song? It's like, that's impossible.
The artist for Craig, by the way, is Prince.
Yes.
I will. I'm not going to say of all time, but I will say two of my favorite films from the past, like 15 years, both Hollywood studio films that I think are really wildly entertaining. Shane Black's The Nice Guys.
Great movie.
Fantastic movie.
And Paul Feig's Spy with Melissa McCarthy, Jason Statham, Allison Janney. Oh my God. It's like basically James Bond meets The Office. It's an office comedy, kind of a feminist office comedy about the super spy James Bond series.
I never expected that coming out of your mouth, and it's so true. I love that movie.
Spy is fantastic. Jason Statham. Yep. Who knew that guy was an amazing comedian? I mean, I have to say, it's a movie in which Jude Law kind of gets lost. Rose Byrne is so freaking brilliant. And she almost steals the film, in which all of the female comedians are so brilliant in that movie, from Melissa McCarthy on down.
All right. I don't know how you so easily just like Muppet movie, like obviously, like, so I will say if I have to cheat, I would say like the any of the team up of Scorsese with De Niro.
Yeah.
And if I have to pick one movie that's not that right now, I'd say Apocalypse Now.
Oh my God, so great!
Great choice.
I'm still like, my wife still burns me over the what was the terrible podcast? I think it was through you, Ryan, that we went on where we had to
the Clint Eastwood.
And then we had to
sacrifice
them.
The
incinerator.
That was so much fun. I mean, it was so difficult, but so much fun.
She says you incinerated The Outlaw Josie Wales, Dirty Harry, and Unforgiven. And then the final one that we clutched to with our cold, dead hands was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
You know what?
Which I absolutely adore, but I can't believe that I consigned Dirty Harry, Unforgiven, and Outlaw Josie Wales, which are three films that I adore with all of my soul. Like, we were made to do that was awful.
That was, yeah. Anyway, so that's a good example of a Deaf Crocodile speed round.
That was one question.
Yes,
I haven't even gotten to the other six. Dream release for Deaf Crocodile. What would you choose to put out? Money, no object. Studio rights, no object. Elements, no object. Craig, what is that one film?
Give me a second.
There are, I will say, there are two Czech filmmakers, both animators, whose work we really love. Not available at present, Jiří Trinka, who did stop motion animator, did A Midsummer Night's Dream. Love to put out some of his work, not available right now. And Jan Schwankmeyer.
Yep.
A number of people have asked us. Tried, not available for U.S. release at present. Those would be great, but there are so many like dream.
I have
projects.
an answer. Unreleased, controversy era concert film of Prince from 1981 that is allegedly 35 millimeter black and white film in the vault.
Yeah. I can't imagine the amount of
any film in that vault.
You would force yourself to be awake like 20 hours a day just pouring through the restoration.
Well, I mean, yeah, we would have to put an announcement up that Deaf Crocodile is not going to have a release for next. Like, they're going to have like a 2-month hiatus.
Please send no emails. We're busy.
I'll check in with Craig. So, how's the restoration going? The first 3 minutes look great. Craig, you've been working on the first 3 minutes for 6 months,
and I'm still sobbing.
I just dissolve in tears, honestly, and I can't get any further.
The stuff's never been released. The negative is probably pristine.
Right. Right.
Okay. But yeah, any film out of the Prince vault, yeah. I'll say right here, we would do it no recoupable cost. I will restore that for free.
Jeez.
Wow. If anybody knows the Prince estate, say, hey, Craig is willing to restore the film for free.
Last question before we do an outro here. A modern filmmaker that you feel like fits the Deaf Crocodile vibe.
Could you repeat that at me one second again?
Any modern filmmaker that you feel like fits the Deaf Crocodile vibe.
I would dearly love to put out some films by my great friend Guy Madden. The wonderful, visionary, surrealist Canadian filmmaker. Known Guy for many years, adore his work. I don't know if there are any opportunities. I know many of his films have gotten very loving releases here in the United States. But I keep hoping there will be an opportunity to put out something with Guy.
Yeah. Craig?
First name that comes to mind, and again, like Dennis said, most of his films all have been released. One of them was at the top of my wish list, and Criterion recently put it out. But Todd Solondz, I would love to have. My dream was to put out to restore Happiness, and then also include his early Fear, Anxiety, and Loathing. His early film, put that on as a second feature. So that's what would have happened if we had done it, if we could get the materials. But I think all his stuff is now kind of, they've kind of all, most of them have all come out now. So Todd Solondz, a lot of people we might lose half our fans and then gain some new ones when I say Wes Anderson. I like his quirkiness.
Oh, Anderson's wonderful.
I know that. I know a lot of people are just
Criterion is putting out the mega Wes set. Is it like 24 discs or something?
I think it's 20 discs, 4K and Blu-ray for each.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned it on your show last night, and I completely agree. When you put out like complete films of or whatever, and like next year, that set already doesn't have his new film.
Well, and it doesn't have his last one either. It was already only the first 10 that he did.
Or like when they constantly put out like these beautiful box sets of John Wick 1, 2, and 3, and I'm like, okay.
Wait, there's 4, there's 5.
Yeah, I know.
There's the ballerina, there's the spin-offs, there's the TV series. Wait a second. The John Wick universe has exploded.
Just yesterday, I posted about the Jurassic 7 film collection. There's going to be an 8th. Why are we not waiting? Those are the first 2 names that came to mind. I'm sure there's probably tons of others that make more sense, and but that's what just jumped to my mind. Perfect. Well, I was just thinking, and I'll say this publicly so I can keep myself accountable. You had mentioned the episode of The Incinerator. I co-hosted it, so I have the right to say this. I'm going to release that episode on the Deaf Crocodile feed for everybody to listen to, because I'm sure most of you have not listened to it.
No.
That was a lot of fun.
You're going to love it.
Don't do that.
It'll be a bonus episode. You can check that out sometime in the next month.
You can just listen to Dennis and I moaning.
No, that actually caused me spiritual pain, because I screened a number of those films. I screened Dirty Harry with Clint Eastwood in person. And those films look so beautiful on the big screen. And to then throw them in the incinerator, I was like, this is
it's kind of funny, because I remember when you had invited me, you said like we could pick the subject. So Dennis and I went back and forth. And we're like, well, we need something that we know well so we can talk about it. And then we picked that, and then realized like that was so stupid. Why don't we pick something we know but we don't like?
Exactly.
Pick something we both love so much, and then just toss them all in the trash.
People will love the drama on this episode. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a great time, and I felt like I watched Dennis age as we recorded.
My hair got a lot whiter after that episode. Damn you. Damn
gentlemen,
you, Red Barrel.
It has been an incredible day. Lots of great questions answered, lots of exciting stories. Anything else you want to shout out before we call it?
I think that's it. I hope people really dig Lev Adamonov's work, and that we've hopefully done justice to that his incredible lyrical genius. The Snow Queen really is one of the great shining masterpieces of world animation.
Yeah, when you see the visual essay about Miyazaki in that film, your jaw will drop, because you'll be like, oh wow, like he really was inspired by that. and to think that without that film, most likely wouldn't have Studio Ghibli. Like all of that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for this film.
No, it was the template and kind of his North Star, and so many of these great indelible. I mean, I often say I think Hayao Miyazaki is the greatest living filmmaker, period. But I don't think without the Snow Queen, that literally that became his inspiration, and I think his guiding star in his career. Which didn't really start to flower in full for another, 15, 20 years until he was able to start directing his own features. But by the time he did, you can see from the very first, oh, wow, he really loved Adamonov and the Snow Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope people really embrace these movies.
All that to say, this title that we are putting up for pre-orders today is an important one. If you like animation in any sense of what you've seen, what you appreciate, what you ingest for film, this is one that you'll probably find a lot of inspiration in. Boys, thank you for your hard work. This has been amazing, and we'll talk to all of you next month. And eventually soon, I'll try to get to the rest of the questions. I think we got to 6 out of about 49.
Yeah. There was a lot of questions. I feel bad, but I was like, we're not going to get through that many.
That is the Deaf Crocodile story. On that note, have a good one. Be safe.
All righty. Talk to you guys soon.
See you next month.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies. Inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions Podcast Network.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions Podcast Network, please select the link in the description